Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to introduce today's session. I'm Therese Perlowski. I am a program manager with Internet 2's membership team. This afternoon's session is From Silos to Synergy, a leadership model for research, computing, and innovation. Our panel today is going to take us inside the University of Illinois Chicago's journey to align its IT leadership around building a research computing ecosystem that is both ambitious and secure. They'll share how their collaborative model has driven real outcomes from cyberinfrastructure strategy to secure research enclaves. So please join me in welcoming Matt Riley, Chief Information Officer of University of Illinois Chicago, and his panelists.
Thank you, Therese. And I'm going to just go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves and their role, and maybe just say a little bit about themselves as they do, starting with Shefali.
Hi, Shefali Mukancherry, Chief Information Security Officer and Chief Privacy Officer for University of Illinois Chicago, UIC. Been in the security, privacy, regulatory compliance, risk environments for about 30 plus years. And so trying to bring together academics, healthcare, and research all at once at UIC, that is one of my passions, actually, to bring it all together.
Thank you. I'm Himanshu Sharma. UIC is the Associate Chief Information Officer for Research, Technologies, and Innovation. Been with the UIC for 18 years. Have held almost every job on the research side, all the way from research administration, in charge of making sure monkeys don't get out from the cages, handle that software, and now I'm in charge of the supercomputing group.
And I'm Jason Masang. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the university. I'm the least useful of the esteemed panel, but I just decided to sit up here from the last presentation, so I will share a few interesting things here or there.
Okay, thank you, Jason. That's awesome. So what we really wanted to talk about here are sort of the charge that all of us have gotten to create these secure research environments, which really caused some interesting things in our team dynamics, which have turned out really positively over time. So I'm going to ask a few questions and let us kind of delve into the subject, but I just wonder from everybody out there, I mean, how many of us are either have built or are building secure research environments for research that are changing the way you're doing business in your IT groups or across the campus in some way? Like most everybody in the room, at least majority, right? And maybe others are thinking about it. So let's get right into this, and I'll ask, we titled this Silos to Synergy. So in the fall of 22, we first saw the need with a contract from our research office for NIST compliance with an external assessment. And this kind of put us on our ear. How are we going to do that? We have always done internal assessments, and we have on-prem stuff, and oh my God, there's a bunch of controls here that we probably don't match. And I don't know what our scores will be. And the research office is very insistent that we need to jump through this hoop. This was a BARDA contract, and the folks from there didn't really know why that was in their contract, but they knew that they needed it in order for us to get the contract, right? So we started looking at this and how are we going to meet these NIST 800 and 171 requirements with the tech team that we had and sort of our experience and knowledge to date. And so I'll just ask the panel, each of you describe what the IT organization and collaboration at UIC was like at the start of this. And I'll start with you, Jason. You have the longest tenure in the org.
Yeah, I mean, I think prior to longest tenure of, a lot of things. I think the cross collaboration at the university was not where it is today. That's the headline, and not even close. And a lot of that comes down to hiring Shefali to join us professionalizing our InfoSec operation. Matt joining us 5.5 years ago and really thinking about IT differently. Despite we have, like every central IT organization at a large research university, we have things that we're responsible for and things that we're not. There are other random IT groups that have responsibility for X or Y or Z. And when Matt came in, I think that started to change to say, like, we need to be engaged and involved in all of the things, no matter where they are. I think Himanshu probably felt through his time, and I won't speak for him, in OVCR and through to us, that he was working on an island of his own and trying to build out these environments and do the best work that he can. So I'll let the others speak about since that time, but I think prior to that time, it was very fractured. It was very siloed, as the title says.
Maybe Himanshu, you can talk about
Yeah.
how your reaction was when I said we're gonna do this, right?
Yeah, I think, thank you for jumping into the silo. So my role, I was talking to one of my colleagues, Jill, I don't know if she's here from Clemson right now, but many of the orgs like mine are usually either reporting up to the CIO or reporting up to the VPR. And sometimes it's both in some institution, which I think is a good model, and sometimes they just keep on going back and forth depending on who is leading the group or who is on the other end. At UIC, it started in the VPR, so I was in the VPR org, as pointed out by Jason, and we were building things on our own, and we felt like we don't have a lot of support and allies on the central IT side. So that started to change right before Matt joined in. Our org was moved to the CIO org, and we did have actually, surprisingly, for all the lack of funding we had, when I joined the CIO org, the group here was actually working on a novel faculty use case, and I'm sure that's how things happen at your institutions too. We had a mobile health use case where we had Fitbit data that faculty was trying to track for patients who have cardiac issues, and it's very sensitive, and if you lose that Fitbit data, you don't know if the person actually had arrhythmia or attack and they need urgent care because they're part of a clinical trial study. So that led us to actually start creating some of these systems on-prem in 2016, but in silos. Like, there was very limited communication that was happening. But it was very different in 2023 when we decided to extend beyond on-prem to cloud, because no one team could do it all, because cloud is already very complicated. Doing security in cloud was even more complicated. And two, no team had the bandwidth to do it by themselves because the operation just kept on expanding. So I think it really is very different from where it was, but the take-home message for us was that without central IT involvement, all of us, the CISO org, the CTO org, because they have some of the cloud enablement people who enable some of those clouds for us, this would not be possible.
And then I'll ask Shefali, she started with us in January of 23. She inherited sort of like, this is what we're trying to take on, and maybe a little bit of angst from our infrastructure and research support teams.
Yeah, so when I started, I kind of got ingrained into here's what our current state is. And I think at first I was like, wait a second, let's talk about our maturity. What does that look like, right? And so what did I inherit when I first started? And so the BARDA contract was the first thing that I had looked at, because that was incredible, right? It's a really large contract, comes with a lot of security controls, NIST 800-171, and then sometimes NIST 800-53 controls. So, working very closely with Himanshu and Jason and Matt, we devised a plan to say, how are we going to address this together? And I think bringing collaboration to the university environment was key, because I know I have the security team, I have the privacy team, but I also have the identity and access management team as well. And so doing this part of the 800-171 controls, it touches all three areas, as well as Himanshu's team with all the research security, the secure enclaves, high performance computing environment, and then working with Jason and his team, and especially shout out to Jolene for networking as well. And I think this is where it all kind of came together as a plan, and we worked on it together. I'm much more of a collaborator being in security nowadays. You have to be more resilient. We've heard that word so many times. And so I think building in that resilience into how we did compliance with the BARDA contract, but I also had to work with the contractors too, right, to make sure that whatever was stipulated in that contract is something that can be operationalized as well as socialized.
Great, that's really great. And from a CIO perspective, I can just say, like, we really had folks working in different areas. Jason's span is wide in the organization. He has more than just infrastructure. He's got user support and had a history with IAM and also our security team. So he had that, but Himanshu's team had largely worked independently of the rest of the organization, and security was just not mature for us. We did have security, but it was sort of struggling to just keep the lights on in incident response and handling the identity access management issues that we had at the time. So this was an opportunity from a CIO perspective to start to see the leadership team get together and really solve problems together, and around research, which is so important to the university, and our ability to respond would definitely raise the confidence of leadership, maybe not just at our university, but across our university system, which, you know, I think has really changed the ballgame in terms of our status as a unit within the overall organization. So
Matt,
I'm going to
can I
follow
build
up
on
and
that?
just I'm going to follow up and just ask the panelists to comment on the differences between sort of what it was like and what it is now.
Yeah, I wanted to just build on that exactly, that I think when we were a unit outside, again, there are units like mine who report to VPR or report to the CIO. And then CISO always have historically reported up to the CIO. But now when it comes to these sensitive enclaves or sensitive environments, I mean, it's really a big collaboration across all three areas, right? Some of those environments are on-prem. You do need network level of controls in place as well. So I think that worked in our advantage, the org structure at that time. But I will also add that that was a mindset shift on how people perceived security. Because staying outside, and perhaps cybersecurity was also not mature at that point when I moved here to the CIO org, but it was always seen as an enforcer. Like, you don't want to talk to security unless you're in trouble. You have an IP that was taken off the network. Oh, now you need to talk to the CIO, the CISO, right? So that was how it was being perceived largely in a big R1 decentralized unit. If some of you attended Jason's last session. But as we moved closer, that proximity and mindset shift, that security is not just the enforcer, they really do wear dual hats, and let's lead in with collaboration first. I think that mindset shift was very helpful, and it was consistently done so that it gave us the confidence to not be afraid of our CISO and tell them where problems are, because we know, we run it, and we know the problems, right? But I think that was very helpful for me to build that trust and connection with the CISO org.
Yeah, I can go, I was going to say, I can go back 10 years to really exemplify the difference. Prior to this role, I was in an edge role on campus and had responsibility for a lot of point of sale systems. And as many of you know, PCI compliance came into being, I don't know, 2013, 2012, I forget. And at that time, the CISO at the time basically told me I was on my own as an edge unit IT director with very little knowledge of security. And we're talking about building networks. That's before PCI got easy as it is today. But back then, you were building networks and putting in place firewalls and all this sort of stuff. And we were on our own as an edge IT unit. And the difference between that moment of PCI compliance to what we're talking about now in support of thousands of researchers is a sea change. It's indescribable.
Yeah, and Jason, I'll just add, there's an evolution to what a CISO was back in 2000 compared to what a CISO is now, right? And the CISO of today, you know, we talk about resilience, but really it comes down to security being the enabler and the protector, right? And it's the security team that is not the Department of No, meaning N-O, it's the security team of No, K-N-O-W, right? There's a difference now. And so it's always a yes and, not a no but anymore.
That's outstanding. And like I said, some of those maybe goals that I had have been realized. So maybe each of you might comment, although I'm sure everybody in the room, and we have this problem too, we don't have any additional funding. We don't have more people to do things. We don't really know, how we're going to pull this off. But how much more, I should say, are we ready for CMMC 2.0 and beyond as the security controls really are getting squeezed, or squeezing us in all different
Not on the
ways?
script.
That was not approved question.
It's not exactly the script that we had, but I'm taking it somewhere further, yeah.
So I'll just start with is that we're going through an evolution. And, we had NIST 800-171 that we had to comply with the National Institutes of Health, NIH, right? And then we evolved into, hey, wait a second, Department of Defense or Department of War. Now, they are also talking about similar 110 same controls as you see in NIST 800-171. So we're seeing a slight evolution, and now it's called CMMC 2.0. There's a 1.0 too. Just remember there's a 1.0, which is a self-attestation. But then the CMMC 2.0 is an external certification, not an attestation. So we had to really dig deep into understand what really is CMMC 2.0 and had to work with Jason's group, Himanshu's group, the Office of Vice Chancellor research groups, sponsored programs, really making a collaborative effort because everybody had a piece of the information. Because in order to satisfy 110 controls, all of us have to work together to figure out what pieces of information we have, what are our gaps, because with CMMC 2.0, it's all or nothing. You either comply with 110 controls or you don't, right? And if you don't, then you could get maybe a conditional certification, and then you get only 180 days to remediate every single gap. And so I think, this is where we've made that evolution is, yes, as we see new compliance regulations coming out, different frameworks that we have to adhere to, working together is key, because without that, not going to be successful.
And I think that's well put, that we see it as an evolution as well. The on-prem systems that we built, which were secure enclave, were actually built around NIST 800-171 V1, version 1, back like a decade ago. So that did give our team some understanding of what to expect. So that helped us when we moved to cloud and we got that NIST 171 independent attestation. Now as we are going through CMMC, it is, even though we have some experience, it is a different kind of experience. It looks like the bar is a little higher. The context with which you interpret some of those same control that we have understood with 171 have higher threshold to meet. So we are working with right now with a pre-readiness or readiness assessor right now who is doing our CMMC readiness assessment. We will get a score out of that. We have an expectation that by this end of this year, we will be also done with the C3PAO certification process. And I would not comment on what level of confidence I feel. I don't want to jinx it even if it is good. But yes, going through that process, one thing I will just point out is even though you may know some of those controls, just doing that is one time, but maintaining it is much harder. When we did the NIST 171, we were able to meet a lot of these control for just a couple of machines we had in the environment. But then the news got out that we have this environment, and many grants were written that we had that environment, and the environment grew substantially, and we have a lot more support burden and a lot more compliance and security burden because the environment just grew. So I think that's another challenge to remember, that doing it one is just one, but if you ask me, are we ready? If we does get CMMC certified, are we ready to handle the workload after that? That answer is clearly no. Putting my request for funding right now in front of all of you.
Do you have a comment on that, Jason?
No, I think it's been well said.
Okay, I will say part of the reason why I went off script is because I think we answered our own question here, which is it the responsibility of the CIO and the central IT organization, or however you're organized in the IT world, to take on this question of, or to take on the things that you need to do to get ready to be certified for CMMC 1.0 or 2.0, or get your NIST certifications, get your secure enclave set up, or should that come as a directive from somebody else in the organization? And I think the answer is clearly that we need to be prepared, right? And we need to take on that responsibility. It may differ for some organizations, but I think most should be thinking about that and getting ahead of the game. And the other thing that I'll just note, and hopefully everybody is catching this, and it's really the theme of this, is for those who think as a leader that I might be able to just assign this to my CISO or assign it to my research support team or to my CTO, you're probably not going to get this done unless everybody's working together. It takes the entire suite, and even beyond these three and their span of control to pull these things off. Everybody has to be moving in the same direction. So I'm happy to say we've got that. And so when I think about our preparedness, yeah, but we need investment, right? So that is something. So sort of thinking about the future now, what other collaborative opportunities have we probably created for ourselves in getting out of our silos and working together in this way to meet some specific needs, but also, I think we've evolved in ways that might serve us for AI now and future needs as well, and maybe the panelists can talk to that, maybe starting with Jason.
Sure, I think, it's really important, if that's not clear from the title of this, to get out of those silos. I was thinking about this presentation last night and thought about how, and Jolene or Himanshu could confirm this, that Himanshu probably meets more with the data center team that reports to me than I do. And I think that's really positive and indicative or illustrative of the relationship and the lack of silos that we have in this space. I think one of the things that has come from this, of us being a relatively united front and a team that people can look to for these sorts of projects, are collaborations with our hospital, the Academic Medical Center. And that, I can't point to any one moment in time necessarily that's made that happen, but Himanshu could speak to specifics of a massive data project with their data and our researchers. Those sorts of things weren't happening a few years ago at all. And that is true around all sorts of security projects with our hospital. That's true for identity projects with our hospital, as Shefali could speak more to. But I think that is a direct result of this team being in spaces where we speak with the united front about what we can enable for people. And there's a million other examples of that. AI is a big one. But I really think that hospital collaboration is significant.
Thank you for actually calling that out. I did not have that in my notes, but it's worth calling out that not just the relationship with the Vice Chancellor for Research where I came from, so I had some of those relationships when I moved over to the CIO, but hospital was very different. So many of your universities may have academic medical centers, and generally speaking, there is a mixed bag that most of the centers will prefer if the data never leaves the medical center. It never leaves the Epic or Cerner ecosystem, and researchers come into their ecosystem and use all that data there. I think in our case, that is increasingly becoming not the case at our university, and I think that happened because of the trust that has been established between the hospital CIO and the academic CIO, Matt, in this case. So that has really enabled us to do some pretty large projects together, where we are trying to now act as that intermediary between the research enterprise and the clinical enterprise. But another area where I think we are collaborating closely, I think we had a strategic objective recently called out for AI literacy. I think in the last session, if you heard, that no matter which tool you go with, there has to be a user training component to it, an ethical use component to it. And for AI literacy, we are serving diverse stakeholders. I'm serving researchers, and you're serving business folk, and we have instructors and students. I think it will again take all of us to be able to meet the challenge of AI literacy programs, setting those up in a sustainable fashion. And again, that's another area where we are collaborating as a team.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I would just say that, we have 16 colleges, right, at UIC, and And how do you do security effectively, right? It's not the Shefali show, it's actually everyone's show, right? So one of the things that I look forward to is each of our colleges, or what we call units outside of our colleges, they also have someone that's called or designated as a unit information security officer. And so I rely on that person. That person could be an IT admin person, could be an office manager, could be an IT director, could be an associate CIO, vice chancellors, could be anybody, whatever role they have. But we have them designated as unit information security officers. So, in collaborating with these folks, I get insight into what's happening in each of these colleges, what's happening in these units, what's of their concern, right? And so trying to understand, how do I influence the rest of the university to become more secure, right? There's a maturity that we're trying to strive for from where we were to where we're going. And the key part of all this is that I need folks to take action so that they protect themselves in whole, protecting UIC.
Yeah, and I'm going to circle back on something Himanshu said about working with the Academic Medical Center. And just for folks in the room who may not know UIC that well, we're a large university, the largest public university in the city of Chicago, about 36,000 students now. And we also are UI Health. So UI Health is part of UIC, and the two work together. And one of the things that everybody on the panel now and myself participate in is a data governance group for moving clinical outcomes into research opportunities within the university. So from our medical center, our academic medical center, to the university and across our colleges for opportunity. And I think that's another outcome here of our team collaborating and being sort of available to the campus for this type of opportunity, which was a big one strategically for UIC.
Can I also add
Yeah.
that we are also part of the UFI system? There is folks in this room who are part of the UIUC, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And I think another collaboration that started to hit home for us in the last 5-6 years is the openness in these two universities in the same system, and Springfield as well. University of Illinois Springfield is also a vital component of our system, to collaborate with each other. And we did that early on when we had the new CIO, and we had Scott here in the room, who was instrumental at UIUC to start building that relationship. And that opened up tons of different opportunities for us to work together. UIUC also has something called NCSA, National Supercomputing. I have colleagues, Tim, sitting in the back row over there. We organized some site visits with that group, and it started to explore what collaboration opportunities exist. And I think we were somewhat early in exploring that, perhaps not the pioneers. There were other universities like in Massachusetts, there is this MGHPCC, if you've not heard of it, Massachusetts Greenwich High Performance Computing Center, where they are trying to set up this consortium, and people are trying to share power, cooling, and electricity space. We are limited in Chicago. All of us run into that problem, and now we are, I think, have that relationship already built in with folks down at Urbana-Champaign, where space may not be as big of a problem as it is in Chicago. And through this trust-building measures and site visits, hosting each other, I think we moved a long way to set up potentially a consortium where we can work together as a group of schools to try to solve this AI power-hungry problem that no one seems to be able to solve on their own.
Yeah, I'm just saying one more thing. So as what Himanshu described, my mind is going, wait a second, all these people working together, how are we going to secure all this data? What data is coming in? And so working very closely with Himanshu, we're kind of put together, a way that this can be enabled, right?
That's great, and I'm going to circle back on something, because I think, and I'm going back to Himanshu on this. He said something about our ability to scale and do the next things. And just to give people an idea, after we built for one research project, one secure enclave for research, and got it attested, how many are we at now, Himanshu? And how many are on tap for your team?
I think around 60 across two different offerings that we have between on-prem and in cloud. But that number will continue to go up, because if we do our CMMC, and if the deadline of November 2026 is really going to be held which all the indications are DoD will not back off this time, would mean that all DoD research has to move in. So we had this interesting problem originally where I think like enterprise never had this problem where if you're using Microsoft, at least at UIC we don't have it. I don't want to assume at other universities you don't. But if Jason says we are a Microsoft shop or the decision has been made, then everyone is basically using Microsoft or by and large. With research computing, that is not the case. People can still buy their own server sticking under their desk, and that still continues to happen. I'm sure that happens at your schools too. So we were always chasing adoption. It's no longer the case because of Secure Enclave. We are sometimes the only choice because we have gone through that lengthy attestation process. It's very expensive. In fact, we have a funding request right now with our CFO, which is we are trying to submit it to actually get dedicated funding to attest these environments and just money going out. It's not even money coming to Shefali and our teams to do the work. It is just money going out to an auditor. So I think it just seems like with regulated, which is the topic of the day, is going to be even more adoption would just happen. People may or may not be happy about it. We may be the only choice. And then it goes back to that literacy question, that literacy in those cases becomes even more important because you don't want to act and come across that you are, no, we have to go to you. We want still people to be willing to work with us and see a benefit, a net benefit in working with us.
Yeah, so thanks for that. Just gives people an idea of what we're really dealing with. And also maybe as we talk about the successes of building a collaborative IT leadership team at UIC, also it brings it back to the challenge and maybe the failures of the day and the opportunity for the future for a CIO to actually resource some of these things. I mean, this is what the challenge is for leadership in IT right now. As demand for our services across the board, not academic, research, security, AI now, and no more funding than we ever had, especially if you put it in any kind of rational context with where we were even before COVID, right? So it's a challenge. So before I move to the next question, which will be the last one that I'll ask the panel, for now, I want you to think about your questions for us. I want to leave some time for that and make sure that we answer any questions in the room. So get your thinking hats on if we've said anything interesting at all. And then while we're waiting for that, we will go ahead and ask the panel, each of you maybe thinking about our experiences here and what we've shared, what advice would you give folks in the audience here or folks across the higher education community who might be dealing with some of the similar challenges that we started with?
So I would say, quite simply, start the journey. Don't avoid it. Don't wait. I think, and I give Matt a lot of credit for this, and this speaks to our, the way that the four of us work together on some of these initiatives, that there is a part of me in the face of lacking funding and a million priorities and things of that nature that when people start talking about CMMC, my response is, did the VCR ask? Has anyone come to us? And I'm wrong. I mean, I want to make that very clear in this room. Like, that's the wrong attitude to have, but it's very easy to fall into that trap when you don't have the funding to do these things and you don't have the imperative, and maybe no one even notices how much work you're doing. But the right attitude is the opposite one. Like, we are IT leadership on this campus, and the answer has to be that we know this is coming. We know we need to do this. We know we need to support these people. So start the journey. Don't avoid it. Talk to people a lot. All of those people I was just talking about, have all of those conversations, because the one thing I can say with certainty is most people on campus, certainly researchers, but even administrators, do not have any idea how difficult this is and how damn expensive it is. And that is only going to get more true over time.
Yeah, I think just to build on that, there is the discussion of early mover advantage. I will also say in some cases, if you're just starting a journey, you have the late mover advantage, right? So many of us have either done this or are in the middle of doing it. So even though it is a lot of work, but at least you will not be doing it alone. You will be able to lean on your peers. So I think in light of that, I will want to plug like 2 communities where if you're trying to build some of this work, it will be very helpful. And there are a lot of different communities where this activity is happening, but especially there is a regulated research computing community of practice that is a great group built specifically around helping institutions who are on this journey or are willing to share their lessons if they have been through that journey. Carolyn Ellis runs that group very well. I'll also plug in 2 more groups, CASC and CARC. We have some member from CARC sitting in here, some member from CASC. Those are other 2 groups that research computing folks regularly attend. And this is a big topic of discussion, regulated computing, because we are used to always being open science. We are used to making changes in scheduler, and it's okay if the cluster is down because the file system filled up, and we will just have 95% plus availability, and that's acceptable. But now mentally we are going through this shift where no, we do need the 6 nines availability that Jason and the enterprises are so used to. It's just ingrained in their DNA. And also you do need the regulated security that is ingrained in the CISO's DNA. So we need to be able to work with both of these groups, because this is not how we were brought up in the research computing field. It used to be open, experiment. It was a lab. We treated ourselves as a lab. We are no longer able to treat ourselves as that. And I think if you extrapolate that to faculty, they are feeling it too. Now you go and tell a faculty you're doing this great research with DoD, but guess what? You cannot put that data in your entire lab that is set up with your blood, sweat, and tears, went through the tenure track, and now those computers you cannot use for this type of work. It's gut-wrenching. So I think we are just not the only one. I think having conversations across the campus is the only way we'll move the needle on this.
Yeah, I think, being silos to synergy and talking about research computing and innovation, I really hone in on the innovation side where, right now we've heard of NIST 800-171 compliance. We've moved into CMMC, right, 2.0. There is a 3.0, by the way. But what I'm looking forward to, the vision, is the NSP 33. That's also coming. And that's going to change the environment even again, right? And so the lifelong lesson of, keep your eyes open, make sure you're working together, understand what the future brings, and then trying to put all that together and say, back to Jason's point, do we have the funds to do this? And find a way, right? Because otherwise, we're going to end up putting in compensating controls. And as the regulatory environment changes with innovation, we're going to need to find that funding. So.
Yeah, great, and great advice for everybody in the room. And as we say these things, and I'm really maybe going back to the first thing that Jason added about taking it on, it's a reminder to leaders in the room. I mean, we don't have new resources for this. We're pulling from existing to pull towards strategic or how we're going to be compliant. And it's just a reminder for us to all lead with empathy and think about what kind of challenges we're putting in front of our people, take care of them, right? So, I mean, we've done a number of things to make sure people are getting paid as much as we possibly can within our IT organization, within the rules of a state, institution. There are ways that we can do things, and we take advantage of all of those. And then we also take time to make sure the work is fun and make sure people can work hybrid if that works for them, and continue to do things that help them stay with us and feel like they have a job that they can actually do. So just plug for being caring about your people for sure. So with that, I want to invite questions from the audience. Like I said, if we have some questions out there, we have a few minutes to maybe 8 or 10 minutes, or a little less than 10 minutes to answer those. Yeah.
Hey, Matt. Todd Schechter, UW-Madison. Thank you all for this presentation. We're in a very similar situation, building towards CMMC level 2. How are you all thinking about the change management required on the researcher side of things? We're going to build these amazing environments. They're going to work for the researchers, but this is a game-changing, a game-changing time for them, where they might be used to open computing, open clusters, anything goes, to having to work within a secure enclave. Just curious if you have any thoughts on the change management side from the researcher perspective.
Yeah, I think we are having some of those same discussions. It seems that when we talk to auditors, the way they understand the attestation boundary is very different from when we were just talking about 171. But when the same controls are called under CMMC, they see the boundary much more strictly. And that's where it goes back to the discussion of what is in scope, what is out of scope. And there are some strategies some institutions are adopting, trying to keep the researcher's laptop out of scope. And that's why I was talking about the labs that they have built, the computing that they purchased, to tell them that if you don't want to be doing all that we are going to do, and we are getting attested on these, then you have to do all that computing in the regulated environment. But it's easier said than done, because in a research workflow, there are multiple type of machines or architectures that you're using. Sometimes there is an instrument involved, right? And I think to do some of that work, it's an evolving field. I don't even think auditors are prepared for scientific instrumentation. A lot of the auditors who we are working with are coming from DoD backgrounds. So they are very well prepared for those corporate environment, but not well prepared for tenure track faculty and telling them no.
Yeah.
Todd, to your point about change management, Matt talked about the way that we think about our staff and the workload and all of these things. But I think it can be difficult sometimes, but we also have to have that sort of empathetic perspective about the researchers. Right. And when you're someone who has dedicated your career, as Himanshu sort of said, to doing defense research, and then some, from their perspective, IT people tell you that you need to use a secondary M365 environment.
Right,
like
exactly.
What seems like utter nonsense to you as someone who is changing the world with whatever kind of research. Like, that is an incredibly difficult change management task. And so I think I go back to the same thing in every time I ever talk about this sort of thing. It's humanity and empathy, and talking to your colleagues as people and trying to understand them, with the recognition that at the end of the day, there are a few hard truths that none of us can control, but you have to come to that conversation with the recognition that this is not fun for them.
Yeah.
But I'll just say one thing, that one thing we can control is at the time of contracting, right? What are the security, privacy provisions that are in there? And so as a CISO, I will work with our researchers and contractors to help understand, okay, do we need to use existing security tools, and working individually with each of those researchers that are impacted to say, hey, I'm sorry, can we put Microsoft Defender on your personal laptop? Or Threat Locker if I need to go get that, right? So, using our security tools and then educating the researchers that if you want to do this research, we've got to do this at a minimum. Yeah. Minimum.
And I'll just add too, it's not just ours to take on. There's shared responsibility. One of the things that we've done pretty religiously is make sure that our Office of Vice Chancellor of Research has skin in the game for everything that we're working on here. So in these cases, generally it's been that we do the work, we handle the technology side, they pay some of the external assessment fees, and they stay involved with us. And then, hopefully, and there's a little bit of hopefully in that, but they're talking to researchers and they kind of understand, and they understand the importance because they're actually, there's something in it that they've paid for. And so I will go to Sashi, and then we'll have time for you, Ronnie. You'll be okay. So Sashi?
Yeah, thanks for an excellent presentation. I think we're all struggling with the same issues. And one of the things I think we discussed with Tripti the other day was maybe NetPlus can stand up some of these environments that are compliant, and that could be a fee for service. And of course, with the volume, maybe we can do it a lot cheaper than each of us individually doing it, because the attestation and the certification it's a big ticket item. My real question is, how do we fund these things? Because going to the CFO and asking for funding, I think I'm wearing my third pair of shoes for asking for money. The other question is, can you tie the F&A funds somehow into funding these things? Because at the end of the day, what benefits is the research output. And research output, a portion of it should go into IT and these types of infrastructures. So I'm just going to ask, are you making some progress in that? Because there's a lot of researchers who are willing to do this if we can establish some sort of a collaboration.
If I'm honest, not yet.
No.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to say potentially dwindling F&A funds, right?
That too.
But so far so good. We've actually ticked up a bit at UIC, but it is a challenge to get after those funds, especially at a place that's traditionally given it back to the colleges and has a very distributed model. And so this has been probably my biggest thing too. My shoes are pretty worn out myself. So Yeah, I would say that's a good question. For the other part of your question, though, I'll just add one more thing that was talked about in some groups, was potentially we follow a model like we did for cyber infrastructure plans, where we shared examples of how we met the need across the community. And I know ESNet stored a lot of those, but perhaps Internet 2 could, share more information about success stories with meeting these compliance needs.
Yeah.
Anything else from the panel on that?
Thank you.
Okay, why don't we go to Ronnie's question? Ronnie?
So build it and they will come, right? But they're coming before it's finished being built. You know, thank goodness for POAMs, am I right? Yeah. So as you're going through this, you know, CMMC is a maturity model, which means we need the resources, we need the dedicated people to maintain our certification once we get it. That's important. I'm just wondering, are you up here because you feel successful yet? What is success in this to y'all?
Okay, I can try to take. Now my team runs that environment, so I have to be careful. Some of them are in the audience, so they will hold me accountable.
We don't mind if you're up here just to commiserate with us too and not feel successful.
I think the reason we are trying to just come up here is we would not be even in a position to be here if we were not working as a team. Yeah. I think the whole idea is if we were trying to do CMMC like I was 7-8 years ago, where I was a different shop, set up as a research core facility, just like a microscope facility or a DNA sequencing facility. I don't see how that would happen in this day and age, because you need to be so tightly integrated with your security stack. You need to so well understand the physical control mechanism. You need to really understand your networking protocols, because everything gets into play when you're building some of these environments. And the fact that we have gone through successfully now a couple of 171 attestations, we are in our second, third year attestation now, and we are now already have a contract out with C3PAO, that we feel comfortable enough to even be here. But without the collaboration, I don't think we would be up on the stage. Now, what score we end up getting, like I said, I don't want to jinx it. But that's up to the auditors to decide. But the fact that we had this strong partnership, it makes us happy to come and share that how important it is to collaborate with your IT shop across the IT. And like Shefali said, not just IT, but across the colleges too.
So your suggestion is silo to synergy to success.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Oh, can we change the title now?
Next year. Next year. I think we're also like sharing a model that likely must be the blueprint for most institutions. There is a subset of institutions out there that have just thrown a ton of resource at the problem, and they are certified, and they have all sorts of environment that exists. That is not most of us. And so what is the alternative for the rest of us who have significant needs and not significant resource? And I think this is certainly a bit of a blueprint for that.
Matt,
Yeah,
I have a question for you.
I mean, we're sharing something here. Of course, we're just kind of opening up and sharing. And the reason why I thought it was a good idea was my passion in leadership is that we get after basically this strategic mission of our universities, of our research universities, which is research, and that's the focus here that really started us, but also our academic mission and our charge to create a student experience that's outstanding. I think UIC, we've built a leadership team that I wouldn't trade for any other in the country to do that. It doesn't mean that we've done it all, and success is a moving target, but it means that we do have the pieces in place to do anything that this place, our university, would actually fund and make available for us to be the ones to put it in place, and it's pretty exciting for me.
Can I ask you one? Remember, flip the script.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Time for one more, and then I think we're out of time.
So I know that
I know we are, actually.
I know that the undertone of all this was around trust that we have established. But what's the role of the CIO or any leader who is reporting, these people are reporting up to build that trust, and how did you go about doing that?
Oh, building trust. Oh my gosh.
Good one.
Well, you don't start with trust. I mean, I think the kind of conversations that you're hearing us have right now, we have all the time, and they're very open and they're very different. Diverse viewpoints are welcomed, And then over time, we've developed a rapport that of trust, I think, in each other that will respond, and it may be different, it may not work for you, but you'll trust that you got an honest and I don't know, thoughtful answer from your teammate, and we do that between us. The rest of the team too, a couple of our leaders are not with us today because it's just the focus of this talk, but being consistent with that type of environment, and for me it's always about being consistent with the whole staff and the leadership team as well, so they're not hearing something different in different circles that Matt said, or if we're talking about each other, I don't see that happen with any of our teams. So I don't know what else to say. That trust takes time, and we've been able to keep this team together, and that's probably the biggest factor. Thanks, Himanshu.
Thank
and
you.
thanks everybody. Thanks.
Are you sticking for another session?